Welcome back to Fuqua Sports. Today we are bringing another college football video, now shifting our attention to 2025. So we did this video a couple years back, but we're going to do it again. It's our pre-spring cumulative top 25. So I gathered 20 credible sources that released their top 25 for 2025. You can see which ones I used and I'll link them in the description down below. But I awarded points on a reverse basis from the rankings, basically how the AP does it. 7 of the 20 sources listed honorable mentions or just missed, etc. So I awarded 0.2 points for each team that was listed. So this allowed me to recognize the top 25 bubble teams, you could say, and set them apart from like the Purdue's or the Mississippi States. But obviously 0.2 points, not enough to tip the scales really. So I think that's a fair metric. And Athlon Sports gave 2 tiers of teams, in which I awarded the bottom tier only 0.1. The point values for each of the 20 rankings are then combined for the final poll that you'll see in this video, just like how the AP poll does it. And you'll see that in this graphic. First we'll head to the top 9. You have Texas coming in at 1. They bring in college football's top recruiting class of the country, and people are really buying the hype behind Arch Manning. They had a decent playoff run and they look to take the next step. Ohio State, the defending national champions, at number 2. They get 4 first place votes, so some recognition there. But it feels like the goal for 2025 is first beating their arch rival Michigan, something Ryan Day has yet to do in 4 years. And once they get past that test, they'll look to defending their championship. At number 3, you have Penn State, 4 Georgia, at 5 Notre Dame to wrap up the top 5. Oregon at number 6. The Ducks bring in both a top 5 recruiting class and a top 5 transfer portal class, so they're going to be back in the mix of things. Then you have LSU, they bring in the nation's top transfer portal class. And at 9th is Alabama. People are starting to worry, but you have to remember that Nick Saban started 7-6 with a loss to ULM. So Kevin DeBoer starting 9-4. I think the Crimson Tide would be just fine. Moving down the list, you have 2 more SEC teams, Tennessee at 10, South Carolina at 11. And that's just the theme of college football these days, and I feel like the gap between the SEC and the Big Ten is going to grow more. But those 2 conferences just have more appeal, more media rights, more donor support, just more resources in general, and the landscape of college football is really going to shift more to the Big Ten and SEC's favor. Teams like Miami, Arizona State, SMU, BYU, they're going to try to look to join the Big Ten and the SEC to try to keep up. But again, you have all of these teams piling in behind. Florida did well. Not a lot of people thought they'd make a bowl game, with clearly 2024's hardest schedule of the year. And their SEC schedule stays the exact same. They have the same exact opponents, so a tough schedule this time, but they proved themselves the last year, so now let's see if they can take the next step. And then you have Michigan. They finished the season off back-to-back wins against Ohio State and Alabama. Not a lot of teams can say that, so they look to ride their momentum into 2025. Moving down the rankings, you have Indiana at 19, K-State at 20, Ole Miss at 21. 3 high-powered offenses look to push for a playoff bid, a second one in Indiana's case. Then Texas A&M, Iowa State, Louisville, and Auburn to wrap up the top 25. Auburn, I know they didn't go bowl eligible, but they went 1-5 in games decided in 10 points or under, so you'd think that would balance out this season. And to add on to that, they have both the top 10 recruiting and transfer portal classes. That's the same with Texas A&M. And as we move down, you can see Missouri, Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt. So that makes 13 SEC teams all fighting for a top 25 spot. Obviously, you know the season's not going to end that way, but that's just crazy how much talent this conference has. Looking elsewhere, you have Nebraska at 26, first winning season in 8 years for them, and Matt Rule is coming into year 3. And if you know anything about Matt Rule's coaching history, you know that year 3 is going to be a big one. You have Boise State, the top group of 5 team. They have to replace Ashton Genty, but they do have a bunch of players returning back. But the top competition is probably UNLV. You have Georgia Tech, Oklahoma, Baylor, and Texas Tech rounding out the top 32. And you have the top 25 plus these 7 in this graphic. That makes 32, and I'm going to be doing something pretty cool with these 32 teams, so stay tuned. And you have 16 teams that deserve to be recognized on the right of the screen, and that's it. So you have 48 teams getting some sort of recognition in the preseason, but obviously take this with a grain of salt. The top 12 is not going to be the same. You're not going to see those 12 teams in the playoffs. It's just not going to be that way. You know that preseason rankings can kind of be wishy-washy. Just take Florida State, for example, in 2024, as well as like Oklahoma State, Utah, Arizona, Kansas, those Big 12 teams. anything can happen. I'm interested to see who are the Cinderella teams, who's going to be like the Indianas, the BYUs, the Arizona States, and who's going to disappoint. What are your predictions? Leave me your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll catch you in the next one.